what archaeologists do when they pull material from the ground or when they translate texts, they bring their own cultural baggage to that interpretation and the baggage of the times that they live in. And so it's imperative that we go back and continually reassess the things that we take as facts. Many of the early archaeologists came to the study of ancient Egypt and ancient Nubia from the perspective of Semitic languages or the study of the Hebrew Bible. And it was very important to them to bring Egypt specifically into the sphere of biblical studies. And so they had to carve Egypt away from Africa to bring it into that sphere. And the way that they did that was they used race. So these early archaeologists effectively made ancient Egypt white in the sense that they made it part of a dominant Western culture, and ancient Nubia was separated from that. It was black. And this was how they took Egypt out of Africa and put it into this Semitic sphere, this biblical sphere. And it's only in recent decades, the last 3-4 decades, that Egyptology has really moved away from that. And scholars who are studying Nubia are really given the chance to give a voice to this Nubian material that it wasn't given much of a chance to have in the past.
So being that there has always been black Egyptians, and we know that people came primarily from the Sudan and the Sahara, we find lots of black people amongst the royalty of Egypt. These are literally some of the most powerful people to ever walk the earth. For example, this is Pharaoh Thutmose I of the 18th dynasty. This is Lady Rai, nursemaid to Queen Amos Nefertari of the 18th dynasty. This is Maherpri, known as the Lion of the Battlefield, who held the title of fan-bearer at the right side of the king, which literally meant that he was always on the right side of the king, working as the closest advisor to Pharaoh. This is Queen Amos Nefertari, who was the first great royal wife of the 18th dynasty and the daughter of Pharaoh Seqenenre-Tao. This is the noblewoman Najmet of the 20th dynasty, and this is Pharaoh Ramesses, who ruled during the 20th dynasty. All of these people are black Egyptians, and that's not surprising because we find black Egyptians today. As all of these mummies are Africans, they have a very specific African trait that is genetically inherited, that being prognathism of the upper maxilla. All of this Egyptian royalty have extreme cases of prognathism. This is a genetically inherited trait found almost exclusively within black people, and this was very common amongst the ancient Egyptian population. And of course, it is seen prevalently throughout ancient Egyptian artwork, most noticeably on the Sphinx. This is a trait found heavily throughout Africa. It's almost non-existent in other groups. It's where your upper maxilla protrudes beyond the plane of your face. It can make the lips look very full. This prevalence of prognathism and African traits has been well known for decades. To quote James E. Harris, generally, the dentition of each New Kingdom pharaoh and queen represents a unique combination of dental characters, such as overbite, overjet, intercentral relationship, and molar relationship, which permits the identification of each mummy from the x-rays of the dentition alone. This observation is not surprising, since the teeth or dentition remains one of the most formidable tools available to the forensic specialist. Dental alveolar prognathism, an inherited trait, which is normal for the Nubian people, ancient and modern, may be observed in pharaohs Thutmose I, Thutmose II, Siptah, and Merenptah, and most of the queens of the 21st dynasty. So whether it's the Tashrenut mummy or Shammai or many of the pharaohs and queens and royalty of the New Kingdom, there's no shortage of black mummies in ancient Egypt. This is true in the Old Kingdom as well. As we know, the first pharaohs of Egypt are from the Sudan, the Sudanese migrating into Upper Egypt around 4400 BC. Thus, we can see very clear Sudanese features on the early pharaohs of the pre-dynastic and Old Kingdom, as the earliest pharaohs are from Nubia and the Sudan.